Hello, and welcome back to the American Man podcast. This is Friday, March 14th, and this is your 5 day look back. Again, not a whole lot actually happened of note this week. We had probably the biggest thing was that the continuing resolution for the budget passed through the House of Representatives, and then finally today it passed through Congress with the support of 10 senators, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. So Democrats have often accused Republicans of causing shutdowns, government shutdowns, things like that. So it was good to see that they actually took a consistent stance. I appreciate consistency in politics, even with when I disagree with particular policy. I think consistency is admirable. Um, but this does just kick the can down the road. So now we have a couple more months before the government runs out of money again. And that leads me to what I thought was maybe a more interesting story this week, which was the backlash that Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie faced, even from Donald Trump. Massie is a Republican and a pretty hardline constitutional, libertarian most of the time, but certainly principled. And he said that publicly that he was not going to vote for the continuing resolution. And with the House having such a small margin of error for Republicans, Trump kind of went after him and the others who were possibly withholding their votes. I completely disagree with going after someone who is being consistent in their ideology and someone who is as principled as Massie. He has spoken out time and time again against these CRs. They pass with an understanding that, oh, we'll get this done later when we have more leverage, or we'll get this done later, one vote at a time, and it never happens. And he's smart enough, and I think most people in Congress are smart enough, but I get the sense that they just don't want to do the real work of digging into these bills and passing them, one at a time, so that everybody's on the books as to what they supported or what they didn't. The thing about these continuing resolutions is they give everybody ammo to say, well, I did vote for this. Well, yeah, this other thing was in it that I didn't like, but I had to vote for it or else the government would shut down, or I had to vote for it so I could get this other thing that I liked. So it's the compromise. And this is the classic case of, the Republicans and Democrats getting together, disagreeing with everything about each other, but saying we're going to compromise. And how do they compromise? Well, both of them just get what they want. We spend more money, we go further in debt. So um, I'm not in favor of the CR. I wish we would have, tackled our debt problems. Republicans claim, well, we have to have more time to really dig into everything that Elon Musk and Doge are finding so that we can pass laws. It's not that hard, guys. You take everything that he's done so far, you put it in one paragraph saying, there, we codify everything, all actions taken so far, and ratify those as being consistent with this new bill. Easy. But, people are concerned with the political backlash and yada, yada, yada. So here we are kicking the can down the road as we always do. Otherwise in the news, we've been back and forth now with Trump threatening tariffs. I think most of the time he's bluffing, and one of his true, I would say, points of leverage or negotiating abilities is he is less predictable than most other politicians. He has done these things in the past, and so people aren't really sure when he's bluffing. I think the concern that I have is that he's been doing it all month now. And I think people are starting to catch up. He threatens a tariff, the other country threatens a cross tariff or a counter tariff. He threatens a bigger tariff, and then we all just kind of settle back and agree on a delay or on a lesser tariff or whatever it is. Um, I'm not as opposed to tariffs as the pure libertarians. Um, I'm okay with not retaliatory, but matching tariffs. If a country is putting tariffs on our goods, I'm okay with putting tariffs on their goods. Sort of reciprocal tariffs. I think the bigger issue that libertarians tend to miss is that I think that tariffs on countries that use child and slave labor are morally just. I think you have to combat that in a way that works. Gone are the days when we invade countries, and that's a good thing. But now to influence, positive moral change in this world, I think we have to use that through our pocketbook. And if that means that we have to pay more for Chinese junk on Amazon, or if it means we have to, you know, have fewer new iPhones or buy one every 2 years instead of every 1 year, I think that's an okay compromise. And what the messaging I think we need to start, pushing as fiscal conservatives would be, things might be a little bit harder for a little bit. Prices aren't necessarily going to go down, but our dollar will go further within our country and will be more self-sustaining. And I think that is the true benefit to some of these tariffs. Unfortunately, I don't think Trump sees them that way. I think he sees them as a negotiation tool, and he uses them as a threat, a cudgel to, beat into submission whichever country is doing something he doesn't like. I think that's the wrong way to go about it, and I kind of wish that we would, approach it in a more reasoned and moral manner, and including, to an extent, to protect American industries um, that are threatened, that we should keep here, um, just because of a national defense type perspective. I don't think we should be counting on potentially hostile countries for some of our things. So those were the probably the main um, big newsworthy items that happened this week. So the government is not going to shut down. Um, the economy is dipping due to all this uncertainty. If I found anything, it's that it doesn't really matter what political party is in control. What the market dislikes is uncertainty. So you start throwing, will he or won't he? Are they or aren't they going to introduce these tariffs, things like that? And it's not so much, the actual policies themselves, it's uncertainty. So we are going to see a dip in the market. I'm pretty confident that that will come back up once things have settled. People are talking about a recession, possible recession, things like that. I don't think that'll be the case. I think things will get tighter for a little bit, and then they'll come back, because that's typically what has happened, historically. Once the president kind of settles in and everyone has a better idea of um, how to predict what he might be doing. So, last thing, I did see this week. I have to, pull this one. So, a representative, a Democratic representative from Arizona, I'm going to butcher this name, but Raul Grijalva, um, he passed away on Thursday morning. Um, but then his Twitter account went and posted an attack on Donald Trump, saying President Trump's latest reckless decision to fire thousands of employees, et cetera, jeopardizes student aid programs. Um, there's got to be some awareness, right? I mean, he died that morning. Whoever's running his Twitter account, you gotta know these things. And this is the problem more and more with DC, with politicians and social media, is it's so scripted, and it's so predictable. It's not genuine anymore. I mean, for all his crazy tweets and faults, you know that Trump is actually tweeting his tweets, because that's how you get things like "come thief." He's he doesn't have an intern or a social media staffer posting these things for him, and there's a bit of authenticity to that that I think a lot of people appreciate. Or at least on the flip side, people are getting pretty tired, I think, of these sort of scripted social media responses and these really just formalized. It's no longer a new or interesting or unique thing. When President Obama ran, he really was the first president to um, utilize this sort of online social networking, social media, and it was new, it was unique. Um, but I think that a lot of politicians now have just sort of fell into the yeah, we just have someone else to handle this for me. And people can sense that. People can sniff that out when it's not you writing these posts, when it's some long dictated sort of policy related grandstanding. um, they're not actually sitting there writing this out, and people know that, and I think it loses a lot of its influence and sway. So my warning to politicians on both sides of the aisle: tweet your own tweets. Don't have someone do it for you. If you can't be genuine, then just don't post anything. So until next week, have fun.